So hope you've enjoyed your lunch and some great networking. So I'm going to share, hope it works. I've been struggling with that since the morning. There's the QR code here. You can just click on the QR code. You're going to get the whole session will be live on your mobile, and whatever discussion is going, if ever you can't follow the whole session. So let's see if it's work. No, not working. It's working? Yes? Good. You. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's continue. So we now move into our afternoon program with a special guest who's going to address some focus on entrepreneurship, investment, and the African business opportunity. It is now my pleasure to invite Her Excellency Latonia Copeland, the Global Peace Ambassador, author, thought leader, and CEO of Essential Affairs LLC, to deliver her address on the topic Building Empire, Multi-Sector Entrepreneurship, Investment, and the African Business Opportunity. Just a little brief about Her Excellency. She is a distinguished global leader, luxury event strategist, and transformational mentor with over 25 years of professional excellence. She is a seasoned expert in design, consumer engagement, and experiential curation. She serves as CEO of Essential Affairs LLC, where she creates mission-driven experiences that inspire leadership, connection, and global impact. Recognized as a Global Peace Ambassador to the United Nations under World of Life Ministries, she contributes to the Women's Leadership and Youth, Music, and Cultural Affairs departments. Ambassador Copeland is also a 2 times Amazon best-selling author, co-authoring Finally Free and Unlocking Success, Tales of Resilience with renowned coach Jack Canfield. Her leadership journey includes service as Deputy Director of International Children's Affairs, Interfaith Chaplain, Brand Ambassador for the Lisa Nicole Collection featured on Married to Medicine, and Youth Mentor with the Steve and Marjorie Harvey Foundation. She continues to champion youth empowerment, education, and community advancement across the globe. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that gracious welcome. To the program directors, the board of directors, the institute, partner stakeholders, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Commerce, honorable ambassadors, other distinguished delegates, professors, business founders, and invited guests. All protocols observed. Coming to Mauritius has been an exciting journey. And I'm so honored and grateful to be here. You are not only a beautiful country, but you're very beautiful people as well. I am a multi-sector entrepreneur and social impact leader, dedicated to transforming industries through hospitality excellence, digital innovation, and sustainable development. My industries through hospitality bridges businesses, technology, and community empowerment to create solutions that generate economic growth while advancing people-centered impact. With a wealth of experience in hospitality, tourism, and event production, my company, Essential Affairs, design experiences that foster connection, cultural exchange, and curated service. Through digital innovation, we are focused on developing and implementing technology-driven solutions, digital products, and platforms that empower entrepreneurs, organizations, and communities to thrive in an evolving global economy. My mission as a global peace ambassador through NGO Word of Life Fellowship International, it is deeply aligned with the UN, with the United Nations Youth 2030 Agenda and Sustainable Development Goals. Through my businesses, I am committed to empowering young people through leadership development, digital inclusion, entrepreneurship, and skills training that promote kingdom principles, innovation, gender equality, and sustainable communities. So let's not leave here with just notes, but have an intention to create action, to execute. Here are 3 actionable tasks for transformation that I'd like to share. One is create pathways for education to include rural and urban communities that lack access due to lack of digital sustainability, lack of internet. According to the Global Economical Monitoring Report, there are 450,000 schools, 250 million children in the African diaspora that lack educational resources due to lack of technology. Number 2, let's develop mentorship programs that align with future projected goals within the communities. Number 3, let's execute partnerships that create economic participation. As a multi-sector entrepreneur, I believe that business is a powerful vehicle for transformation, where hospitality and tourism can create meaningful experiences, technology that drives innovation, and purposeful leadership to advance inclusion and sustainability. I seek to inspire the next the next generation of leaders and change makers. And I look forward to working very closely with you here in the land, in the country of Mauritius, to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for this. I prefer taking the mic and walk around than standing there. Okay, now we move to the next guest speaker. The next speaker will be opening the second panel discussion, okay? So this address will focus on building the foundations of trust, public financial management, accountability, and the governance conditions for diaspora investment. So I would like now to welcome Mr. Ambalyu Bari, the Head of Payroll Audit and Special Investigation Unit, Internal Audit Department, Ministry of Finance, Republic of Sierra Leone. Please welcome Mr. Ambalyu Bari, please, on the stage.
I can use this one. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. As I was introduced, my name is Ambalyu Bari. I am not just a government official. I'm also an associate lecturer at the University of Sierra Leone. So when I hear you talking about education, it's something I'm very passionate about. And personally, I've invested in a lot, working with the United States Embassy in Sierra Leone to ensure free, quality, and access to education for our vulnerable communities in Sierra Leone. And I would love to collaborate after the session. Thank you for all the work you've been doing. I just wanted to acknowledge that before going to the actual reason why we're here. In terms of accountability and transparency, as my experience as a public financial management expert in both governance and academic, accountability is not only about telling people what you've done or people knowing what you do, or saying, okay, this man or this woman has integrity. It's about creating a transparent institution where people have trust and can do business with you openly, without any doubt. So in Africa, we know corruption has affected investment. So if you talk to people in the diaspora, in 2023, I was in the US, Minnesota to be specific. I met with the Sierra Leone community in Minnesota. They have a very big community, many successful people. So when you talk to them, most of them have been in the US for more than 20, 30 years without coming back to Sierra Leone, without going back to Sierra Leone. And these people are people. One of the guys was saying, okay, I've heard a lot about you. The US Embassy in Sierra Leone is always on your matter, saying that you have integrity and this, and you're doing a lot of work in terms of integrity and public financial management in Sierra Leone. I would love to invest in Sierra Leone, but how transparent and accountable are our institutions? What I said to him was, the truth is, corruption is inevitable. It's not just in Sierra Leone, it's even in the US, in the UK, and everywhere in the world. But it's about what we do as people to ensure that corruption does not thrive. So in Sierra Leone recently, we have a recent achievement. I think we were scored by IMF, I think it was A, in terms of our corruption index. It's improved drastically over the period of 5 years. And through the leadership of His Excellency, the President, and the current Minister of Finance, the goal is to create transparent and accountable institutions. So for government officials, whether you are a political appointee, you are a civil servant, or you are a public servant, the Anti-Corruption Commission requires you to declare your assets. And recently, if you try to Google or Facebook the Commissioner, Ben Kefala of Sierra Leone, you see him talking a lot about putting properties up for sale and auction. These are properties that are recovered from public officers who have unexplained wealth. Let's say at the start of the year, you've declared 2 houses and 3 cars. By the end of the year, the Anti-Corruption Commission finds out that you own 10 houses. What the commission will do is to ask you, what is the source of your wealth? How much do you make on a monthly basis to move from 2 houses to 10 houses within a period of 11 months? And those houses, if you cannot explain the source of income, they are confiscated by the government and put up for auction, and the money is sent back to the consolidated fund. So this is just setting the tone for the panel discussion. I'm sure our moderator is very capable. Without wasting time, I would like to draw the curtains and welcome all of us to the panel session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. So now we proceed with the next session, the panel session 2, which is about governance for growth, mobilizing diaspora, capital, talent, and entrepreneurship across borders. This session will be moderated by Ms. Davina Sawoki-Gowodon, the co-founder of Council Plus Africa. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Ms. Davina on stage, please.
Good afternoon, Excellencies, Honorables, business founders, distinguished guests, esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Every 4 years, something extraordinary happens during the FIFA World Cup. You are all experiencing it right now. And I can see smiles on the face already. Airports fill with supporters, flags are proudly displayed, families reunite. Cultures are celebrated. People who may have lived abroad for decades return, not because they have to, but because they feel connected to their home team. That powerful sense of identity reminds us of an important truth: distance does not diminish belonging. Now imagine if that same passion, loyalty, and connection that brings millions home for sport could also inspire investments, entrepreneurship, innovation, and skills to flow back into their countries every day, not just during a tournament, but throughout the year. That is the promise of the African diaspora. Today, more than 320 million people of African origin live outside the continent. Every year, they send home billions of dollars in remittances. But perhaps their greatest contribution isn't money at all. It's knowledge, it's innovation, it is global network, it is entrepreneurship, it is talents. And above all, it is the belief that Africa can compete on the world stage, and we are ready to do that. Yet, one important question remains: what would it take for Africa diaspora to return not only with their hearts, but also with their capital, their businesses, their ideas, and their confidence? That is precisely what today's conversation is about. Our discussion explores how governance, trusted institution, digital innovation, and strong partnership can transform emotional connection into sustainable economic growth. Because ultimately, diaspora investment is not driven by patriotism alone, it is sustained by trust. And trust is built through good governance. Before we begin, allow me to introduce our distinguished panelists. We have Mika Elechi. A round of applause, please. Mika is the founder of AfriLink and Macklemore Solution, a technology entrepreneur and ecosystem builder. He has dedicated his career to creating digital ecosystems that connect African businesses with global markets. Working across Africa and the diaspora, he brings together businesses, talents, investors, diaspora communities, Canadian institutions, and international partners to reduce barriers to investment, trade, and collaboration. His work is driven by a practical understanding of both sides of the market, creating trusted pathways that open opportunities for investment, employment, and long-term economic growth. He is particularly passionate about positioning African professionals and businesses for global opportunities while strengthening enterprise partnership across the continent. His work is founded on the simple but powerful belief when trust, strong institutions, and the right platforms come together, the African diaspora becomes one of Africa's greatest engines for sustainable growth and transformation. Welcome, Mika. Joining us today is Anusha Mahadia. Anusha is the general manager of Karimjee Informatics Limited, where she leads the delivery of digital solutions that help organizations transform, innovate, and thrive. A passionate advocate for digital excellence, she believes technology is far more than an enabler. It is the foundation of modern governance, economic competitiveness, and investor confidence. At a time when Africa's future will increasingly be shaped by digital connectivity, Anusha is helping build the system that creates trust, unlock opportunity, and connect people, businesses, and economies. Welcome, Anusha. Finally, joining us in this panel is Ambalyu Barry, who's the head of payroll audit and special investigation at the Ministry of Finance of the Republic of Sierra Leone, where he works at the forefront of strengthening transparency, accountability, and public financial integrity. A respected governance professional, educator, and a thought leader, he understands that sustainable investment begins with trusted institution and responsible leadership. As an associate lecturer at the University of Sierra Leone, a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Management and Leadership, and an alumni of the prestigious Mandela Washington Fellowship in the United States, he brings a unique perspective on how good governance can inspire investor confidence, unlock economic opportunity, and drive inclusive growth across Africa. Welcome, Ambalyu. Thank you to all panelists. All right. So this question is actually addressed to all three of you, all right? When you hear the phrase governance for growth, what does it mean from your perspective? And what do you believe is the single greatest barrier preventing Africa's diaspora from investing, returning, or engaging more deeply with the continent? Can we start with Mika?
All right, thank you very much. I'm Micah Lichi. I'm a business entrepreneur. I'm into talent development and also logistics. I'm going to the question, what comes to our mind when we hear about governance for growth? I think everyone thinks about regulations, and that's a scary perspective. Regulations, we should think about protection. When we hear governance strategy for growth, we should think about a system. It should be more of a system that enable trust than just regulations. I think when we are going into audit, I have a cybersecurity background for over 7 years. And most times when we hear about those regulations, we expect to go, oh, what have I done wrong? Why are they putting all these things in place? But we should think it in a different perspective and understand that these are protections. Now, the barrier from diaspora coming to Africa for investment, everyone knows it's trust. We understand that. But I think Africans in Africa have to start thinking differently. We need to rebrand our attitude when we hear diaspora. When we hear about Africans in diaspora, the first thing that comes to an African is money, financing. And the kind of investment we are looking for is, oh, come and put money in Africa, put money in the country. But I think we need mentorship. I'll go back to the Chinese after the war and what China did to become China today, and the collaboration between the Chinese in the diaspora and the Chinese in China. There was a lot of collaboration, not just financings, but productions, business expansion into China. So this actually creates room for not just financial investment, but knowledge. Knowledge is very vital for Africans' investment in the diaspora. And it's both way access to opportunities as well. Africans in diaspora can come to Africa and find out what small businesses is doing well in Africa. Let's use Mauritius. And how can I bring this business to expand to Canada? I think once we have that system for collaboration, there will be trust and we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mika. Can we move to Anusha?
Everybody think about a regulation, and this is not really true. For me, governance for growth is more about creating the confidence, creating an environment where people have the confidence to invest, to innovate, and collaborate, and in such a manner which is sustainable in the long run. And I believe that good governance creates confidence, and confidence will create growth. So it works hands in hand. But we see that many people, when they decide to invest in the diaspora, it's not only about the opportunities. It's about, are they feeling safe? Do they feel trusted? Is there the environment that will allow them to operate in the same way that, for example, they are operating in European countries or well-developed countries? I'm not saying Africa is not well-developed. I'm just saying that the regulation is different there and so on. So one of the main barriers I see is that it is discipline in execution. So often we see vision being written once, twice, challenge, define, and redefine. But how often we see that the vision that we have defined is being executed, and executed in a disciplined and sustainable manner. Sometimes by the time we have defined a vision, before we start the execution, there is another vision, then another vision. So there is a lack, I would say, of execution, discipline in execution of a vision, which prevents our diaspora to come back. So, Yeah, this is what I think.
Thank you very much. Very interesting point. Ambalio, if you want to add.
Thank you very much, Davina. For me, governance for growth is not just another anti-corruption slogan. It is something that has to do with building transparent and accountable institution that encourages foreign investment. Because the moment we have accountable institutions, not just the institutions, even as individuals. For example, I was in Russia a few weeks ago, Moscow, and I was working with the ambassador of Sierra Leone to Moscow. We were around a specific area, and we saw some cash lying around. You know, I'm a stranger there, and he has been in Russia. He went to school in Russia for about 5 years before being appointed ambassador. So I was like, that is cash lying around. Don't you want to take it? And he was like, back, I met it there. In most countries in Africa, you cannot do that. The moment you leave your phone, within 5 seconds, it goes missing. So it's the accountability is not just for the institutions. It also has to deal with us, the human beings. On the single greatest barrier, I know most people will say corruption, 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 because that's what everybody knows Africa for. I don't think corruption is the only barrier for foreign investment in Sierra Leone or in Africa as a whole. The trust deficit is the actual barrier for investment. You can say if I work with government institutions and I try to invest in government, then there is corruption. What about private sector investment? What about FDIs, foreign direct investments in the private sector? How does corruption affect that? So if people start trusting our institutions, our individuals, and start feeling safe to invest, then they will invest. I think that's what I have to add.
Thank you so much. I already hear that there's a common thread emerging. We're talking about regulations, we're talking about systems, we're talking about trust, we're talking about collaboration, we're talking about confidence. And this is the key message. So everyone agrees that the diaspora wants to contribute, but wants to contribute in a transparent system. And the real question is whether do we have or have we created the right environment that deserves this confidence? So Mika, I'd like to stay with you. So technology has made it possible to transfer money across continents in seconds. You're yet investing in a business back home can still feel incredibly complicated. I'm sure all of us will agree here. So why do you think that gap still exists? We want diaspora to come in, but yet our system is not ready. We're moving with IT, and yet we are not there. So how can technology become a bridge of trust rather than simply a tool?
Yeah, thank you for that question. The first thing I would like to address is the African media system. Our media needs to be regulated because of what our media promotes about Africa. And when you look at the media about Nigeria and so many other places in Africa and you see what they are promoting, and you go to Nigeria and you visit and you see how people are being productive, the things that are going on. You look at Nigerians in diaspora, we have the best medical doctors in the world, we have the best IT professionals in the world, and all the media talks about is terrorism, and even the Nigerian media. So firstly, that gives a very negative picture about a common Nigerian. And another thing I want to talk to is we Africans in the diaspora, we are privileged to have the two sides of knowledge about the West and Africa. So we shouldn't be carried away by culture or convenience. I cannot send money to somebody without doing my proper verification because I'm a Nigerian. And I will not allow that to go on and fall for that system. Because if we know that this is where we're coming from and we understand that things can be like this, then we have to educate the other people who wants to invest in Africa. I went to an event hosted by the Canadian High Commission, and we are trying to discuss possibility of bringing Canadian business to Nigeria. And I met a speaker from Benin Republic, and she was showing me what Benin Republic has done with their system and verification, where you can put someone's ID on the system and it could bring out all the information. We have to have a system for trust. We have to digitalize our system where everybody can go to a channel and it could bring, just like in the US, right? In Canada, we have our scene. And with that, they could bring everything about you. And also, we have to create bodies for these investments, known bodies, that organizations, local partners that help businesses come. We have to do this through the High Commission. The Canadian High Commission are doing that across Africa. Interested investors, business owners can come through them and they do their verification. So once we have all these things in place and also regulate what our media is posting. In the US, in South Carolina, people die every day. You can walk on the street and someone is dead, and the media will never put that in. But every single bad thing that happened in Nigeria is brought in the media, and the good things are not put in there. So, and when you are putting such in the media, you are not only putting Nigeria in negativity, but you're also promoting what those guys are doing, because those guys, they want to see themselves in the media doing that. They feel very happy about that. So we have to regulate our media, we have to build systems, and we have to create channels that build trust. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And to cement what you're saying, how is it possible to regulate media? Is it something that is doable? Is it something that institutions and government have been trying to do? So how's the situation right now in countries that you've worked in, Nigeria, for instance?
Okay, so in Canada, whatever you want to do has a permit, right? Even if you want to learn how to brush someone's teeth, you have to go and get a permit for that. I think Nigeria has so many activists. Someone can just come out today and say they're an activist, and they promote things on the channel that don't speak good about the country. So I think even the country does not have a control of Meta. Africa has to be careful of Meta. We do not have a total control. You can see our governors can be banned on Meta. Mm-hmm. Look what Dubai, look what Chinese and Russia is doing with social media. It's giving good name of their country. So our country has to create some data policy and also work closely with the social media channel to see how it could be regulated, even in posting. If a post does not meet the country standard, I think there's a two ways about this, because people think social media helps in promoting and saving Africa. But I would say to the crowd today that Africans are the only one that can solve their problem. We do not need the West to solve our problem. We are the one that can solve our problem. So we have to regulate everything we use for the benefit of our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Mika. Thank you. Very interesting point that you're making. And to cement this, technology can only work when the systems behind it work. Technology cannot compensate for weak system, and that brings me to Anusha. Anusha, you spent years helping organizations digitalize their operation. And if you had the opportunity to advise African governments tomorrow morning, what are the first 3 digital capabilities every African country should build if it wants to become the preferred destination for diaspora investment? And what would they be?
summarize it in 3 words. The first one being trust, the second one being simplicity, and the third one being trust, because any investors, as I say, when they come, they don't only look for opportunities, they look for the confidence that they will have. And they want to know, for example, where the data is protected, whether the transactions are secure, whether they can operate within a stable regulatory framework. So for me, digital trust will be becoming the next new competitive edge that any country will have to deal with. The second one is about simplicity in doing business. We want to facilitate the diaspora to register a company at ease, transfer the money at ease, deal with the public service requirement at ease. This simplicity should be there at every touch point. Today, people are, the diaspora very often feel overloaded, with all these procedures and so on. We may say it is online, but at the same time it is online, but at the same time I need to call, and at the same time I need to send a paper. So sometimes it is a bit confusing, these touch points. So that simplicity should be there. And of course, for this simplicity to be there, the underlying should be a good infrastructure, whether it is the technical one, the digital one, from a security perspective, and so on. But I believe that we need to address each and every touch point that will really make us as a continent appealing to the diaspora. This is very important. Likewise, if you look for example, a European, when they transact within Europe, it is very, very easy for them. Do we have a similar experience when we transact within the African continent? So these are things that we may consider, and this is what I will term as simplicity. And the third one, I see Mauritius Telecom is here, is about our infrastructure. How resilient is our infrastructure? It is not only connectivity. It is not only our data centers. It is also our capacity to generate power. It is also our capacity to have digital savvy engineers around us, digital savvy, I would say digital savvy population, because we may have all these touch points available, we may have all these facilities available, but if we have our people themselves, they are not ready. Because digital savvy is not only having access to TikTok or Facebook, click, 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 we are digital. This is not digital savvy. We need to know how to use this system. We need to know how to operate. We need to know the boundaries that we have. So for me, these are the 3 things. I'm sure you were expecting me to have a very technical answer for you, but I think these are the basics that needs to be addressed. Trust, simplicity of all the touch points, and building a resilience infrastructure beyond connectivity and servers and so on, and data centers. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting you to have technical answers, but meaningful conversation, because everything is built on those foundations. And I really want to get back to you on a question in terms of which country, it's a very tricky question, which country do you believe is getting digital transformation and governance right?
I'm not going to be biased, so I'm not going to talk about Mauritius. I've been to Rwanda very oftenly the last 3-4 years. And for me, Rwanda is an example when it comes to how they have implemented their digital roadmap. I had the opportunity to talk to the Ministry of Health there. I remember 4 years back, and they showed to me their vision. And today when I follow them on LinkedIn, I can see that guy who talked to me 4 years back, how this vision step by step is being executed. That's why I mentioned at the start, discipline in execution is important. We may have the best vision, and I was in one of the um, uh, I had the opportunity to listen to you in one of the forum from Mauritius Telecom, and I will quote because this is not mine. Writing vision and strategic intent is very easy with AI. The differentiator will be execution. And I've seen this country, when they have defined their digital roadmap, they are also walking the talk by executing it. So for me, from an African lens, I would love to learn from them and, try to see how they've got the formula to execute the vision. Because execution is not easy. It does not only involve infrastructure, it does not only involve money, it involves a collective willingness. A collective willingness to be there. You may have the best system in place, but if people don't want to use it, if they want to sabotage it, they will. And that collective willingness, I think, is the recipe for execution, and I've seen it there.
Thank you, Anusha. Very insightful. Now I move on to Ambolieu. Behind every successful economy are trusted institutions. And which brings me to you. So you've spent your career strengthening financial accountability. If you were speaking directly to an African living abroad who says, Ambolieu, I love my country, but I'm worried about corruption. And this has been a point that you've mentioned initially in your speech. So what would you say to convince them that good governance is a reality in Sierra Leone and across Africa? And what practical reforms have you seen or you would recommend that quickly improves investor confidence in Africa?
That's a very long and critical question, but I'll try my best to give a very short answer because of time. First of all, I will acknowledge those concerns as they are legitimate. And because trust is not something you just build based on hearsay, trust is built on evidence. So I will encourage Africans in the diaspora by pointing out few evidences of what has been done to ensure that corruption does not affect foreign direct investments in Africa. For example, in Kenya, you see the Kenyan government and the accounting body is now asking all institutions to ensure they use the international financial reporting standards and frameworks to prepare their financial reports. This is something that is uniform globally. It ensures comparability. So if you prepare a financial report in Rwanda and you prepare a financial report in Sierra Leone, I will sit in Mauritius and compare those two businesses because those are globally accepted accounting standards. And in Sierra Leone, in terms of the media, there is now a cyber security law. So you don't just go to the media and talk like that or type like that or say anything about someone or say anything about the country or an individual. It is a crime to share personal, even personal WhatsApp conversation without the authority or the assurances or confidence of the individual you are chatting with. So I think those reforms across Africa, not only in Sierra Leone and Kenya, it is also happening in Cameroon, it's happening in Nigeria. Recently, Nigeria was removed from the FATF low index list because of transparency and the fight against corruption. So my advice to them will be, come, ask questions, be part of the process. Don't just look for a response. Come and invest is safe. No, come look at the issues. Tell us where the problem is. Help us solve the problem, because you were first Africans. You were born in Africa before you migrated to Europe or other parts of the country and become now Africans in diaspora. So come and be part of the solution. Don't just wait for the answers. That will be my response. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. It was a very, very interesting, enriching conversation. I'm sure there will be more conversation on the floor. But if anyone in the audience would like to ask our panelists a question, you're most welcome to. But again, only one question perhaps, or should we wrap up? Okay, I guess we can wrap up. So I thank you all. It was extremely enriching. And we believe in that diaspora, and we believe in Africa. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the panelists. Davina, thank you. Okay, time for another innocent hand, as we will have a second lucky draw. Let me see who is innocent enough to participate in this lucky draw. Well, the lady in orange maybe will be helping me. Please, Honorable, if you can come to the stage. Samira, I'm looking for the ball. Thank you. All right, everybody had his business card. I think we have a late arrival. If ever you have your business card, I will take it. Thank you. Second lucky drawer. Please look away, Honorable. Look at me in the eyes. And let's see who is our next lucky participant, delegate of the day. All right. Oh, it's... Do you want to say it? Let us do it again. So it's herself, and she's being... This is the hand of fate. That's it. Okay, let's do it. My good friend Catherine, you have been lucky drawn. Please come forward. Catherine, yes, thank you. Would you please just tell the audience what you do and your African experience?
Okay, all right, to wake everyone up. So I'm Catherine Foukyun. I'm the president of a Chinese business chamber in Mauritius, and I've been in South Africa for 10 years, been hijacked twice, still alive. I was in reinsurance, and now I'm insurance broking. I'm looking for great capacity. I work with Raika Re, with Africa Re, China Re. So now what I'm doing is business matching between Chinese Tojoy, which has got 6 million companies under their federation. So you're most welcome. I will give you the link. You're most welcome to join me on Friday if you're willing. Thank you.
And she has her card to distribute. So you can take it back then. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you, Meenakshi, for this. So now we have another special guest among us. I think without their support, we wouldn't have been there in terms of connectivity. So now I would like to introduce someone to you. that I know he's been very inspiring for the young, for the women, for entrepreneurs, and even for the company. So the next keynote address is going to be Mr. Vimal Gangadin. He is the CEO of Mauritius Telecom. His address will explore AI, connectivity, the next economy, key pillars in shaping Africa's digital future. So Mr. Vimal, he's a leading organization transformation into a digitally driven, AI-enabled communications leader for Mauritius and the wider region. His focus is on strengthening network resilience, modernizing customer experience, and developing new growth engines through cloud, data, and AI capabilities. It is now my pleasure to invite Mr. Vimal Gangadin on the stage to deliver his keynote address.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Yeah. So when I came in, I saw the martini glasses. I was like, it's cocktail time, huh? Starting early. All right. So maybe if we can just switch to the slides. Oh, okay, good. Yeah. So I want to tell you a little bit about Mauritius. So of course you're in Mauritius, so you know about Mauritius. So typically when we talk about Mauritius, the first thing that comes to mind is our beautiful beaches, you know. So now the thing here is tourism. Tourism is, this is by design actually. So for our economy in Mauritius, when we had to look at the assets that we have, obviously we don't have minerals, we don't have oil. So tourism was one of the assets, beaches rather, were one of the assets that we had. So that was an industry that was by design that we really focused on. But the whole economy itself, in fact, back in the days, started really with sugar, right? As in many other countries or islands, I should say. So then what the government did was like, okay, a few people were getting rich, but not the majority of people. So the government then really pushed the private sector, really pushed the sugar industry to really move on what's going to be next. And what was next was really around manufacturing. So the private sector was pretty much forced to move towards manufacturing by having lots of taxes around sugar and then incentives to invest in manufacturing. So we had to reinvent ourselves basically. Now this is probably something that you may not know, but back in 1988 actually, so we were already the number 3 exporter of quality woolen knitwear in the world. So whenever we had to reinvent ourselves, we really focus on those things. So then came tourism, then came finance, right? So then came finance, and then we had to train a whole generation of people. And when we did it, for more than 20 years actually, Mauritius was the #1 source of FDI, foreign direct investment, in India, up until recently, after much lobbying from Singapore, so then Singapore became #1, but Mauritius is still up there, #2 or #3, if I'm not wrong. And then came focus on ICT. With ICT, so that's where then telco companies like ourselves, Mauritius Telecom, MTEL as well, then contributed in building the whole infrastructure within the whole country. And every time we had to do these kind of shifts, then we really pushed. So already back in 2017, we were the first African country that had laid fiber connectivity to across the whole island. Now, we're not too big, so it's a little bit easier, right? So, but this is what we use our strategic advantage, where we use the fact that we are small to see like how fast we can move. And back in 2017, we were 100% fibered. We were the first country in Africa. And today we remain among the top 10 most fibered country in the world. And now you can see where we're heading. We're heading towards AI. Now, AI is probably, we're talking so much around AI, it's becoming like, some people are, I'm not sure whether for you, but some people are getting blasé around it, right? But we're taking it very seriously because we see this as yet another way for us to move up the value chain. To move up the value chain, and reinvention, that's really our key strength in Mauritius, because what we have is really the people. So that's the journey that I want to tell you a little bit about. And from a Mauritius telecom perspective, you look at us, we are an infrastructure company. So when we had to think about this, so we were like, what's the first thing? Obviously, we're going to be focusing on connectivity, subsea cables, connectivity across the country, data centers, GPUs, and whatever else. That's a given. But what's the one thing that we told to ourselves that we're going to be focusing very much on? That's education. So what did that mean for us? For education, we said, let's start with school kids. So you know Mauritius, you probably don't know about Rodrigues. That's an island that has around 40,000 people in Rodrigues, only a few primary schools, secondary schools. So last year, we went to Rodrigues, worked with one of the schools there, secondary school there, on a pilot project. We said, what if we could use AI for kids? What if kids could use AI to learn better? What would that mean? What would that mean if we could put in the hands of every child in Rodrigues and eventually in Mauritius a personal tutor? What would that mean for a whole generation? So we partnered with the ministry because it was very important for us to do that in collaboration with the government. So we partnered with the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of ICT, and then we expanded the whole program. So much so that earlier this year we signed an MOU with the Ministry of Education to get access to all the school materials, so all the books, all the teaching aids, and whatever else that you think is owned by the government. So we use these, and then we fed that into our AI models, so that you probably saw that earlier. Like kids could learn, like for example, physics in a local language in Creole. In Mauritius, we speak Mauritian Creole. So that's a very first, because all the textbooks are in English, right? We probably speak in French, but now you could learn physics in Creole as well. And then obviously, we run this on our local infrastructure, in our data center. So this is some visuals around our data center. We equip that with the relevant infrastructure to make that happen. And with all the learnings, we ended up building a whole personalized AI tool. Initially, it looked very much like ChatGPT. Eventually, it morphed into something like this, with gamification built in there, where kids would log into a platform. Depending on which class, which level you're in, you get access to your subjects. You go in there. You have contents from your books, actually, that has been digitized and then put all into the platform, so that you can access, in the first place, all your books, all the pages. You can now start talking to your book. And when you're asking questions, you're getting relevant materials that are very contextual. You're getting images, you're getting explanations that are being done at the student's level. We have a very popular thing here called revision. Exams are coming up. You select your topics, and then you can start revising by yourself. You can create quiz, personalized quiz for yourself. And once you do that, while you do that as a student, we keep track, obviously, of all of this. So then we know what are you good at, what are you not so good at, what do you need to drill into. And then as a student, you can ask questions in any language. So this is what gave rise to the whole concept of a personal tutor for everybody, right? All students. And that's what we're working on. But then the risk, right? What does that all mean? What does that mean, like, around AI? So if we put AI in the hands of somebody in the primary school, a school kid, the AI is thinking. Are we now teaching kids to outsource the thinking before they do the thinking themselves? So that came as serious concerns. In fact, teachers started questioning it. Because number one, what would that mean from a teacher perspective? What would that mean for their own career? Would they have a job with that? Some parents started raising their hand and say, hey, you know what? Go and do yourself, but leave my kids out of it, because I don't want my kids to be part of this whole program. Would curriculum be aligned with the tool? For example, if you go to ChatGPT, it's not really aligned with your tool. So how about this one? How about AI safety? How about measurement? Now, many of these risks can be mitigated and are being mitigated. Like, for example, curriculum alignment. It's a fairly simple problem from a technical perspective, can be solved. Measurement can be solved. Even safety, to a certain extent, can very much be controlled with the right guardrails. So we decided then to kind of change, to then deal with teacher confidence. This is the goal that I was claiming proudly. We said by 2027, we will have every child in Mauritius to have a personal AI tutor. Now, it sounds very good, right? But like I said, it comes with the risk. So we had to scale that back. So we said, no, that's not going to be the goal. We're still going to go with 2027, but now we're going to be focusing on the teachers instead. What if we could equip all teachers with an AI tool that now becomes a coach to the teachers themselves, becomes an assistant to the teacher? Because now if we do that, what can happen out of this is the level of education will go up. If the level of education goes up, we still achieve our outcome of raising the whole education level of within the country. And that's what we then pivoted and then started focusing on. And then we started building tools, like this personal tool for the teachers, starting with things like test papers. Sounds boring when you think about it, right? As a teacher, you need to do midterm tests, final exams, and then you need to make sure the questions are different from the last years, the previous years. They're not repetitive, but you have to question them, and then you have to determine like what proportion of it would be easy, what proportion would be hard. Is it multiple choice question? Is it long form question? So now we've ended up building this tool where teachers can then build their test papers, and after the test papers are done, you have students submitting their work on paper, handwritten. How do you correct them? So today, if your class has got 40 students, you got to manually correct 40 exercise books. So that takes time. So now, you just scan, you just take your mobile phone, snap some pictures, you've got the marking scheme, and the whole tool does that automatically for you, and then grade the whole thing. In fact, even gives you the comment that you should be giving to the student. And now that when students are using the tool, we actually know which levels they're at. So now teachers are empowered with a tool that makes it easier for them to do personalized learning, basically. So that's what we ended up doing. And by 2027, this is the goal that we're working towards. So back to the whole idea of execution, back to the whole idea of like having the bigger goal, but then going incrementally towards it. So that's what we're doing. So with the whole concept of AI as a whole, so that's what we're doing. So then what does that mean for us to build this? Because we can think of it like, I mean, what has got a telco to do with a learning app, right? But the way we're looking at it is we're really building national capability here. We're building capability for the future generations, and we're going to be tackling that at a different level. And then what we ended up building is a trusted local AI capability. Now, how are we able to do this? Is because with AI itself. So you can imagine that we're leveraging on AI to build all of these tools much faster now, right? You would know about this. So very soon, we're going to be seeing an explosion of tools, actually, all sorts of tools. So the next problem that we're going to be facing is with this explosion of tools, which one do you trust? So trust is going to be a big problem. So what do you trust? So that's when we realize we're going to need eventually some kind of registry. Let's look at Mauritius itself, some kind of registry where developers, public sector, private sector, or agents, AI agents themselves, would literally be able to go to and get access to what are the trusted AI resources we can get access to. And this is what gave rise to what we call the Mauritius AI Registry. This is something that we have been working on. We're officially only launching this, if I'm not wrong, in a couple of weeks' time. And what this AI registry is about, it's about like showcasing different resources, AI resources that are made available, that are safe, that are trusted. And when I say, when I say AI resources, what are AI resources? Models that you're probably familiar with. Things like when you use ChatGPT, it's powered by a model, a GPT model. But then there's agents, there's skills. So this is what the AI registry helps to discover. And then I think there's a need for every country to have what we call sovereign AI resources. So sovereign AI resources are things that abide to local law, local systems, local data, local language. Like for example, when I was showcasing the whole application around education, that's what we call a sovereign tool. When we expose it as an AI agent, that's a sovereign AI agent, because this is very much on the local curriculum in Mauritius. So if anybody else wanted around outside of Mauritius wanted to discover what's that education AI resource trusted that I can get access to because it's backed by the ministry, so then this is where you get access to that. And that's what we ended up building. Because, and then of course when we build the whole thing, then this is just showing you the platform. There's a whole governance platform around it, because how do you determine like what gets through this platform, gets listed, or what doesn't get listed? So there's a whole governance platform around that. When we build this whole thing, so we built this for Mauritius, so what we ended up doing, we said, you know what, there's value for us in fact open sourcing this. Because if we open source this, what we're really open sourcing here is an open source infrastructure for AI, sovereign AI discovery. And that's what we ended up doing. And today, this whole thing is available on airegistry.dev as an open source resource. Because why? Because we think every country eventually needs to have its own set of trusted AI registry. When we're talking about the proliferation of AI resources, so I think this is one of the key steps, a baby step that we need to put into place, where we then make that available. And for us as a telco, this is what we see as infrastructure. Digital infrastructure for AI. I hope that made some sense. Because if it didn't, there's a QR code here. I wrote a whole essay about it. You can go back, you can scan this, and then you can read a little bit about it. Because the call here is for us really, this isn't really an open invitation. Because when we're talking about building the Africa's digital spine, and this is the kind of innovation that we want to bring here, where we're not necessarily waiting for somebody to create that registry and then impose it from us. And even for us, the approach that we're taking is that this needs to be co-created. What we're doing here around AI, around trusted AI, is just the first, what I would call the baby step, which is really around discovery of trusted AI. But there are so many other problems to be solved down the road, around governance, around trust itself, around sovereignty. And that's the beginning of the journey that we're on. So with that, I want to thank you all.
Thank you, Vimal. Do we have any question in the room, please? Yes.
Thank you very much for the nice presentation. I have a question concerning AI, using AI to tutor kids. I wanted to ask, have you thought about the other side of it? I believe like China and most other countries are trying to limit AI for children so they could actually do some things themselves. And your system, do you think is enabling them not to think much with their brain, because AI is enabling a lot of people to be lazy today? So that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, very good. That's a really good one. Thank you for asking this question. So the kind of AI that we're talking about here is really what we call generative AI, right? Many countries now, Norway just announced that they're banning the use of generative AI in primary schools. I think, if I'm not wrong, secondary school as well. So here's the thing. Nobody knows right now what's the right answer. What's the future of work going to look like? What will your job be like in 10 years' time? Nobody knows. Everybody who's claiming that they know actually don't know, right? I think the approach that we should have is that of experimentation. Now, if we have the spirit of experimentation, but it has to be done in a controlled way. So what we are doing ourselves here is to be humble enough to know when we make mistakes, to be humble enough to say that we need to backtrack. Our glorious goal was to give every child, including primary school students, access to an AI tool. We backtracked. When we talk about it publicly, we said, "Up." I don't think that was the right thing to do, because there is danger for primary school kids. Next year, we're starting with grade 9 students that will be, if I'm not wrong, 15 and above. Is that a risk that we can take because we feel students are already mature, we can already train them, they can already listen, they can already understand about safety, about dangers of AI? We feel yes. Why? Because we've tested that, right? Because for the whole year we've been doing a whole pilot, and this only goes national level next year. So I think we need to be doing controlled experimentation. And we see, and again, that's the value that we see Mauritius here, and which is why this is very much an invitation here. Because we see ourselves as a lab. Because we're small, we can deploy fast. Because we're small, we can backtrack fast. Because we're small, we're more than happy to be humble enough to share. And we can help deploy things first because we have to. We don't have anything else, right? And that's the approach that we're taking.
Thank you. I don't really have a question, but just maybe a suggestion. Looking at what you've presented in terms of the personal tutor, and then you've moved or shifted towards the teachers. So as I said, it's maybe more of a suggestion. Wouldn't it be better if the tool is also oriented toward teachers to actually teach the teachers what is AI all about, teaching them about machine language, teaching them about programming, and then they can take it down with the students who they are going to actually teach? That's my question. Thank you.
So really good. We are doing that. We've been trying with that. What we're realizing is when we use AI as a term, when we use AI as a seemingly technical term, we realize that it's really the non-technical people who are really being very proficient with the use of AI. What we're wanting to teach is not necessarily, especially for the teachers, is not to be experts at writing a model, not to become an expert at understanding the nitty-gritty of, like, think of a car, of how the engine works, of how to change the tire. We're wanting to teach them how to become a really good driver. So with teachers, the approach is really like how to use AI. Abstract yourself from everything else. Now think of it as the super intelligent assistant that you have next to you. And you have problems that you don't even want to talk to your principal about, that you don't want to talk to your colleagues about because it's just too something maybe even taboo. You have your coach now. Or you're dealing with a situation when you're having to teach a student with special needs and you're not really equipped with that. You have a tool that is helping you. So we're wanting to teach them more towards the usage of AI. And when we look at the usage of AI, then we realize, in fact, it's just going back to the basics. How to think, how to be, clear about posing a problem, how to craft solutions. So it's going back to basics. The more AI is seemingly becoming so complicated, we realize the skills needed are the old, boring skills. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I was going more towards the capacity building side of things that you were talking earlier. So the point was if we're going to have to build the base for the kids, who's going to teach them the baseline in terms of the AI and the technology term? So that's where I was coming at the end of the day.
Okay, good. Okay, you're right. So I was answering from a teacher's perspective. So let me tell you something else that we're doing at the country level. So the Prime Minister announced that as part of the budget. So what we told ourselves is, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do with, because we're going to be investing in capacity, infrastructure and all that. Again, it's about skills building. So we put ourselves a target. The target is to train 50,000 Mauritians. So that's the first goal. We said 50,000 Mauritians over the next 1 year, right? So 8,000 teachers, which is what I'm sharing here, 12,000 students, which is what I'm sharing here, but then 25,000 professionals. And that's to answer your question, where these 25,000 will be taught at the technical level, how to build solutions, how to understand AI, so this is happening. This is already into place. And this is a magic number that we're going to be drilling down that. Like all Mauritian companies here, we will work with all of you to ensure you have your staff that you want, your team members rather, equipped, trained on that. Yeah.
It's probably the last question. Hello once again. So quick one. From all of the stakeholders, in your presentation, which is a very, very good one, I'll be asking from the perspective of a developer. Because I noticed from all of the slides, I didn't see, which of course is understandable, an area that talks about if the AI model or if the system is corrupt. What is going to be, or what has been put, or what will be put in place? Give me like a 10-year projection from now. What do you think? Because this is not going anywhere, let's be very honest with ourselves. AI is the 3G of the 19th century. It's not going anywhere. We're just going to align with it going forward. And of course, we need to look for other ways to catch up with it because it's moving fast. So what are those things that will be in place or that are currently in place to tackle cyber threats in terms of how this can be, infiltrated by negative agents of the environment of the community, and turn this into, a tool that could promote exam malpractices and other things like that. So I'm just saying that because I didn't see that in the, in the slides. I think it's definitely a developer conversation. So I just wanted you to shed more light on that.
Thank you. Thank you for asking this. This is probably where we spend most of our engineering time on, actually, to specifically tackle this. So cybersecurity, all the risk associated with AI, that is happening. That's big. So today, already, when we're launching such platforms into place, we can put into place relevant guardrails. When we do the relevant test, we have the enough confidence level, which we have now. Then when deploying, we don't just deploy to the mass anywhere. So next year, for students, it's only one grade where we're going to be deploying this. So I think there's the whole aspect of risk mitigation around dealing with new AI systems that has to be dealt with. And to my point, what I was saying earlier, with the work that we're doing here,
with the AI registry, we're solving the first problem, which is about discovery of trusted AI solutions. But there are many more problems to be solved. How do we now ensure that this AI can be trusted today, but it morphs into something else in 6 months' time? How do we make sure there's continuous testing of these models into place, where they're not just being tested by humans, but they're being tested by AI itself? And then where we can have that, so that's why many of these once we start dealing with a whole slew of AI platforms, all of these will have to be automated. So that's why there's much more work to be done. We're at the beginning of this now.
Thank you very much, audience. Thank you very much, Vimal, for this. Now, ladies and gentlemen. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we'll have a short break of 15 minutes, and then we come back. We have one more panel and a little surprise for you as well. Thank you. So the break will be at the pool.